It's just a...
Yeah, my husband, when I went home, he was all I said, well, no doubt you'll be hearing about him having work.
Yes, absolutely.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order Monday, November 15th. Thank you all for being here tonight. Got tonight with us Rabbi Avraham Zaltzman, Shabbat of Smyrna Vinings, 4450 Lower Roswell Road, to do our invocation. He will not be doing the pledge because he's from Canada. He just learned it, so we're going to have Tim Gould do that for us. But Rabbi, if you'll come up now and come on up. Make sure the microphone's on, and everybody please rise.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be part of the Smyrna and Vinings community. It's a busy month leading up to the holiday of Hanukkah, one of the very big, well-celebrated holidays in the Jewish calendar. The story of Hanukkah is there was a small Jewish army that had a grassroots organization and stood up to the Greek army that was fighting against them, and the Jews were really facing annihilation from this Greek powerful empire. And through a miraculous war, the Jewish grassroots small army managed to win over and conquer the Greek Empire and the army that they had. Now the menorah, which we're all familiar with, the 8-branch candelabra we see all over town on Hanukkah, that's what we call it the miracle of lights. The way that jumps into the picture with this holiday is once they won the war, which was a great miracle, the Jewish people came to their homeland and they returned to Jerusalem. They came to the temple, and the temple was completely desecrated. They put a pig on the altar, and the Jewish people were looking for the traditional kosher oil signed traditionally by the high priest that they would use to kindle the candelabra, as we call the menorah, that was meant to be lit day and night, nonstop. The issue is they only found one kosher jug that would only last 24 hours. Now here comes the tricky part. It took 8 days and nights, full journey back and forth, and a processing time for the Jewish people to get new, fresh oil that would be kosher for the service. And so the problem arose is that now we're going to have, for the next 7+ days, not enough oil, and the candelabra is not going to be lit. The Jewish people went ahead and lit the menorah and thought, it's not going to last for all the time we need it for, and we're going to have to wait 8 days. But it turned out God made a great miracle, and a jug that should have lasted 24 hours lasted for 8 days and nights. And that's what we celebrate. And recently I was thinking to myself, what is the significance of this miracle? The miracle of the Jewish people winning over their enemies. They were facing annihilation. That's a very understandable miracle why God did that. But God doesn't do miracles in vain, the Torah tells us, the Bible says. God has rules of nature for a reason. Only when it's an important time in history does God step in and make a miracle. And so what was the significance of a candelabra not lit for 7 days or 8 days that God had to step in and make that miracle? Just let it sit empty, and in 8 days we'll light it. Big deal. Why a miracle? And that really got me thinking, and it really nails down the message of Hanukkah, which is we were put into this world to make a difference. It was beautiful to see everyone's here tonight. It's a full hall. Everyone's here to make a difference. God made a world that's not perfect, and our job is to make this world the perfect world that God wants it to be. And that's through being a light, a shining light into the world. And that's not just in houses of worship. That's in City Hall. That's at your workplace. That's at home with your family and your community at large. And so God was showing us with that menorah and with that miracle that the message of shining light, and remember, one small light can dispel lots of darkness. And if a little bit of light can do that, how much more so a lot and a bigger action. But let's focus on the small things we can do. God was telling us that message is consistent. It never stops. It's day in, day out, no matter where you are. And so I'm going to make sure that menorah is lit for 8 days a night so you all remember that you're always meant to be shining light. Thank you.
Did you have an announcement to make as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Number one, I want to bless everyone to be able to take this mission statement, and the point, as we were saying, is to make the perfect world. This world isn't perfect now, but the Torah tells us, the Bible says that there'll be a time that we'll have a perfect world, as we know as the Messianic era. What that means is actually a world without hate, a world without pain, a world without suffering, a world of happiness, joy, unity, and only positive things. And so I want to announce actually at Bronner Hall on November 29th at 6 p.m. I'd like to thank the mayor and the city for supporting us and making this happen. Chabad of Smyrna Vinings, which is the new local organization that we are running here as Smyrna is growing and booming, and there's a real need for the Jewish presence to be here. There's going to be a grand menorah lighting and gelt drop, and you can look at our website to see more information of what that is. It's going to be a fun evening for men, women, and children, so we'd love to see you all there. Thank you again. Website is chabadofsmyrnavinings.com, chabadofsmyrnavinings.com. Of the United States of America, and to the republic of which it stands, one God, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rabbi, for being with us. Your energy is always contagious. We always appreciate you being here. Item 2 on our agenda is agenda changes. We have 2. Item A is the addition to the agenda under formal business. It'll be item G for the purchase of a vehicle for economic development. So that's reflected on here already as item G. And then we're adding an item to consent, which will be item D, the use of City Hall Sunday, December 12th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. for a town hall. Scott, do I need to have a vote on that, or are we?
Yeah, that's the best way to do that is to have a motion to add both of those items to the agenda. and have a
Okay,
vote.
may I have a motion to add both those items? Motion by Mr. Lindley, second by Mr. Gould. All those in favor, please vote. That's approved 7-0. Thank you. Item 3 is the mayoral report, and tonight I'm going to turn it over to Chief Zagantz for the Citizens Police Academy graduating class ceremony and presentation of certificates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us this evening. We are very excited to recognize our most recent Citizens Police Academy graduates. As you all know, the pandemic put a halt to a lot of our in-person meetings, so this is the first Citizens Police Academy that we've had in person and at the police department since 2019. So we're really excited to get that program back up and running. The Citizens Police Academy gives the attendees an opportunity to interact with members of the police department. They get to see some of the inner workings of the police department and what things are really like to be a police officer in the city of Smyrna. So we're excited to have these graduates here tonight, and I'm going to now turn it over to Lieutenant Defense and Officer Elliott to present some certificates.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. To all the students of the Smyrna Police Department Citizens Police Academy, thank you so much for being part of this. You guys made this an awesome event. Hopefully we met and exceeded your expectations, and that you'll spread the word, and hopefully we'll get more people in here. So first I'm going to start off with Connor Shea. Okay. Next is Donna Downs. Jennifer Dew. Latarsha Taylor Pearson. And Kevin Ferguson.
So, you got your phone? Anybody want to say anything to the mayor and council?
I'll say something.
There you go.
Yeah, hi, I'm Donna Downs. I have the privilege of serving on the Civil Service Board, and I opted to put my name forward for that after participating in the Citizens Police Academy. I would encourage all citizens to participate in this program because it gives you a very unique perspective on how these police officers serve our entire community. And as a citizen that has been here since '95, I guess, I would encourage you all, as the city council members, to do all you can to support them. They're a great force, and we appreciate all they do. Thanks.
Thanks, y'all, and congratulations. Item 4 is land issue zonings annexations. We have one item, A, 2021-445. This is a public hearing, zoning request Z21-012. Allow rezoning from R15 to R8 for the development of 2 single-family homes at a density of 4.59 units per acre, land lots 560, 0.435 acres, 1439 Walker Court, Joe Callahan. This is in Ward 3. Turn it over to Councilman Lindley, and I'm sure he'll invite Rusty up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Rusty, I know, let me say at the onset, there's been a lot of work on this this proposal over the last couple of days, so huge thanks to Rusty, Joey, and the entire team. Rusty?
Thank you, sir. This rezoning case has changed a little bit from when it's initially went before the P&Z board on the 8th. At that point, it was only a zoning request. The same zoning district, except for the density was a little bit higher. Between that point and today, the applicant was able to come to an agreement in principle with the adjoining property owner to the southeast, an HOA, and acquire 400 square feet, which would lower the density down to 4.49 units per acre and eliminate the need for a future land use change. The P&Z board heard this request last week. They recommended approval by a vote of 4-3. The subject property is 1439 Walker Court. The size of the tract is just under a half acre. If you look at the zoning map, the piece that was acquired to make the changes today is that little green, the little green triangle to the southeast. This property currently has one single-family home on it. The applicant is proposing to rezone it from R15 to R8 and build 2 new single-family residences on this tract. The future land use designation for the property is moderate density residential. They are proposing no future land use change. It'll remain moderate density residential, which caps out at 4.5 units per acre. And as you can see, the surrounding on all 4 sides is all moderate density residential. This is a proposed site plan. Both homes will front on Walker Court. There'll be front entry homes, and they'll basically the lot sizes are 8,500 square feet and 10,700 square feet. These are the proposed lots. The setbacks are set at 25-foot front setback, 5-foot side, and 25-foot rear. Those are the standard setbacks for the R8 zoning district, so there's no variances needed. This is showing this front entry home product. With this request, they're proposing individual stormwater management facilities. These will be infiltration pits or bioretention areas that collect the water from the homes and take them to these infiltration pits. With this request, in negotiations with the adjoining property owner, the applicant has agreed to a landscape buffer along this northwest property line. And then they'll be required to provide right-of-way dedication and a 5-foot sidewalk along Walker Court with this development. This is important because there's literally sidewalk that ends at the property line on the north and south side, and this will create a connection, and it'll finish that connection for that section of street. And as I stated earlier, there's no variances associated with this rezoning. These are the proposed home elevations and architectural renderings of the styles of the homes. And this is subject property. And then some adjoining properties. As I said, with the acquisition of the additional 400 square feet, it eliminates the change in the future land use map, which was the only issue from a planning and zoning standpoint before. So with that change, we are recommending approval of the rezoning from R15 to R8 with the following conditions. Condition number 1 deals with the composition of the homes and the type of materials they're supposed to use. Number 2 requires all the utilities to be underground. 3 requires the developer to be responsible for any traffic improvements deemed necessary by the city engineer. 4 prohibits burying debris on property. Number 5 requires the developer to comply with the city's tree ordinance. 6 requires the yards and common areas to be sodded. 7 is a landscaping schedule for the property with respect to trees. And then we have special conditions. 8 is the setbacks. 9 establishes a minimum lot size of 8,500 square feet. Number 10 establishes a minimum lot width of 50 feet, and 11 establishes a minimum driveway length of 22 feet. 12 is the 5-foot right-of-way dedication. 13 is the requirement for the 5-foot sidewalk. 14 limits the building height to 35 feet. 15 requires the developer to meet all fire access requirements. 16 requires the developer to do any water and sewer improvements deemed necessary by the Public Works Director. 17 requires the developer to be responsible for any stormwater improvements deemed necessary by the engineer. 18 ties the development of the property to the plan that was shown. If there's any change to that plan, they got to come back to you guys at that point and come back and get approval. 19 ties the elevations of the homes, the facades to the ones that were shown there. So they have to be in keeping with what they presented to you. If they want to change that, they got to come back to council. These next 4 items are stipulations that they agreed to with the adjoining property owners. Number 20 requires a minimum of 1 story of brick or stone on the front elevations of the homes. 21 requires a decorative wood garage door. 22 is the evergreen landscape buffer that is shown you on the tree plan. And 23, if they're unable to acquire the 443 square feet from the adjoining property owner, then the zoning reverts back. At that point, if they're unable to do it within a 12-month period, I'll bring it back to you guys to revert the zoning back to R15. With that, I'll answer any questions for you.
Any questions of Rusty? All right. I'd like to invite the applicant up.
What was it?
Mayor, Council, hi. My name is Rick Kolb. I'm Joe Callahan's business partner. Some of you may recognize me. This is the 7th time I've been in front of you. The previous 6 times, you have all felt, I think it's been a unanimous vote, if I'm not mistaken, that what I brought in front of you made sense. It was appropriate for what we were asking to do. Hopefully this time you'll agree as well. I guess to give you a little background as to why we're here, when Joe and I went under contract to purchase this piece of property, we made an assumption that maybe we shouldn't have made, but I think it's a fair one. I think a lot of people would assume a lot of times that where you see a fence, generally speaking, the property line is very close to or at where that fence line is. And unfortunately, in this instance, when we had the final survey done, we learned that 2 of the pins on the backside sat about 5 to 6, maybe 4 to 5 feet, I think, in front of that fence. So we lost some of the square footage, some of the acreage that we thought we originally had, and that pushed us over the threshold of 4.5. We thought we had it to begin with when we went under contract, and then we learned once the survey was done that we didn't. At that point, we had invested some money in doing the research. The title work was pretty extensive on this one. We decided to proceed anyway, regardless of the fact that we exceeded the threshold, because we thought that the lot sizes made sense for the neighborhood. 8,500 square feet and 10,300 square feet is larger than the lot to the left and all of the lots to the right. So we thought perhaps we could still get it worked out. Well, came to pass that there was some resistance to that, and so in talking with Rusty's suggestion, I entered into a conversation with the HOA next door and tried to acquire some property that they had in their common area that was not being utilized, and just to see what could happen. As it turns out, in the 11th hour, we've been able to come to a verbal agreement, and signatures have been circulated that stipulates that they now have agreed to sell us the 443 square feet that we need. So it looks like we're not exceeding the 4.5 threshold any longer. We're offering decent-sized lots for the neighborhood that we seek to build in, and I believe we have the support of the neighbors at this point. So hopefully you will all agree that this project again makes sense, like my last six attempts, and approve. And with that, I'll pass it to my colleague Sean, and he'll give you some more details. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sean Murphy, 3282 Lee Street, Forest Hills, and I'm here as the planning consultant, Rick and his partner. And I'm just going to run through a few things briefly. How do we get this to pop up? The site is there in the middle. It's the red amongst the sea of yellow. The red doesn't mean that the density is different. It's just how I'm identifying the site. The desired density in this neighborhood is 4.5 units per acre, and as Rick just explained, we were able to successfully get to that with today's efforts. And let me also take a second to say thank you all very much, in particular Mr. Lindley, for your effort to get the neighbors together to meet with us and have that extra dialogue. When we went to the planning and zoning meeting, frankly, we felt a little blindsided because we found out there was a petition and all that, which we didn't know about going into that meeting. So since then, we've had multiple meetings, calls, and on-site meetings with several of the residents. So I think we resolved everything. And Rusty, thank you all very much for your expert advice. How do I get this next page to come up? That next one right there. There we go. Just press it down, okay. There are three projects that are basically all right next to us on the same street generally that are all recent rezonings that have a similar situation. They're all basically lot sizes that are either similar in size or smaller than what we had proposed, so I just thought you should see that. You see a blue square up there too. Interestingly, that's another house that Mr. Cobb and his partner just built. And I know we took at least one of the residents over there to see what he thought of that house, and he, at the time, indicated that he really liked that house. So the neighborhood kind of knows what Mr. Cobb builds, and you guys have certainly seen it because Mr. Cobb and I have been in front of you many times and developed quite a few houses in Smyrna. This was an exhibit that was given to one of the neighbors to illustrate kind of what we talked about providing for them, which was planting some 10 to 12 foot tall cryptomeria in a row along the fence. And if we have any problem with finding those particular trees, we suggested a couple of other species that might work. But we've made that promise, and that would be our intent, to make sure that day one, not little bitty 3-gallon or 4-gallon plants, but things that the first day they go in will completely screen the first and second story. And one of the residents had indicated a concern about, having cheap plastic garage doors facing the street right there. There's only one other house really that has a garage door facing the street. So we found these illustrations of what we could do if we spend a little extra money and basically upgrade the garage doors and do some high-quality premium garage doors. And also, the renderings that were presented during the meeting were black and white, so we took a little extra effort to do a rendering to kind of illustrate that the house would be really nice, fairly similar to the house to the left of us, which has a nice patio with lots of stonework. So that's basically what we're hoping to do here. We know the neighborhood is definitely interested in the arts and crafts or craftsman style, so we selected facades for our houses that kind of emulated a lot of the other houses in Williams Park. And then last, I want to touch a couple times again about what Rick already brought up, but it actually, to correct you, Rick, actually was 7 feet that we lost. And a normal survey is done pretty quick, but what happened here is there was a bust in the survey. And we only found this out through the research that went into that extra title. And there was a lot of effort that went in, and everyone was surprised. And unfortunately, the neighbor behind us already had a tiny backyard. And we would have liked to have bought this property from him, but when he found out he had 7 more feet, he was like, no, I'm not giving it to you. So unfortunately, we had to go talk to the guys on the other side. But that really, and in my opinion, was a bit of a hardship, and why we were in front of you. We never expected that. Most of you all know I have friends in this neighborhood, and I know this neighborhood very well. I would never have brought something through to you guys that I thought wouldn't be approved and would be something that neighborhood would fight. So this is why. This is what happened to us. We found out after we already put our money down and spent money on engineering drawings and all that kind of thing. And again, just to kind of show you the last thing here, this is the exhibit we prepared and how small of a piece that really is that we had to purchase. It's like 2 car parking spaces. It's almost nothing. And with that, I'm going to yield and ask you all if you have any questions.
Any questions of the applicant? Nope. All right. This is a public hearing. We have 2 signed up to speak, but if there's anybody else in the audience who wants to speak on this item, I'd invite you to come up and be sworn in by our city attorney now, including the 2 that signed up, Garrett Plyler and August Zigan. Are they here? Come on up. No comments? No comments, okay. All right, anybody else? All right, then we'll close the public hearing. I'll turn it over to Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I do want to thank everybody involved, Rick, Sean, Garrett, Augie, P&Z appointee Keith Bennett, the San Martins, I see them here too, and the Williams Park Association President Rob Allen for working through this. We met last Thursday afternoon, and there were some hard-fought ideas on where they were, and through the weekend they worked it out. So I think this is a good compromise. And I've checked in with a number of the other neighbors that had reached out to me, so everybody seems like we're good to go. And with that, motion do pass as previously read and reported.
Have a motion do pass, seconded by Mr. Wagner. All those in favor, please vote. It's approved 7-0. You're 7 for 7 now.
Thank you very much.
Item 5 is privilege licenses. We have none. Item 6 is formal business. A is AGR 2021-14, approval of memorandum of understanding, AGR 2021-14 with Georgia Department of Transportation for the traffic signal operations program coordination, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute any related documents. Mr. Bennett, the background, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the past 6 years, Georgia Department of Transportation has operated a program that was named the Regional Traffic Operations Program. This program, wherein traffic engineering companies were contracted as corridor managers for state routes, one being South Cobb Drive, State Route 280, that runs through our jurisdiction. These services included testing and repairing any faulty components and regularly monitoring the signals, including the signal timing programming for operational performance. This program is ending and being replaced with a program identified as SIGOPS. It's a traffic signal operations program. This includes support for all traffic signals in a municipality, not just those along state routes. It is important to note that SIGOPS is not a maintaining agency and does not take over the responsibility for operating or maintaining traffic signals. The SIGOPS will open a broader pool of resources for training, knowledge sharing, and collaboration. This program exists to offer additional resources to the Georgia Department of Transportation district offices and local governments to operate and maintain their traffic signals in order to promote an improved experience for all drivers throughout Georgia. The SIGOPS program will continue to build on the partnerships with our local stakeholders to ensure that both local available resources and GDOT's resources are utilized cooperatively to enhance the impact of signal operations in our area. GDOT is requesting that any agency partnering with the SIGOPS program and utilizing SIGOPS resources has an approved MOU. City Engineer Eric Randall recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anything else on that item?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments from council? All right, turn it over to Mr. Welch.
With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 6A, AGR 2021, for the approval of the memorandum of understanding, AGR 20-21-14.
Have a motion seconded by Mr. Lindley. All those in favor, please vote. It's approved 7-0. Item B, AGR 2021-15, approval of the replacement of the boiler at Smyrna City Hall at 2800 King Street, Smyrna, by Max Air Mechanical, 814 Livingston Court, Marietta, Georgia, 30067, in the amount of $63,175 to be funded out of the Green Energy Capital Improvement Project, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. Mr. Bennett, any background, please?
Yes, sir, thank you. As was mentioned, the boiler in this building has reached its end of life and is beginning to fail. And what is on the table tonight is the replacement of the boiler, utilizing an energy efficiency boiler, which operates up to 98% thermal efficiency. The price includes the demolition of the existing boiler, demolition of existing venting, installation of the new boiler, and installation of the new PVC venting. And Public Works, along with the state contract, recommend approval.
I'm glad that we are replacing this with green energy and efficiency in mind, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An important piece of equipment, certainly needed as we get into the heart of winter. With that, motion do pass.
Motion by Mr. Lindley, seconded by Mr. Pickens. All those in favor, please vote. It's approved 7-0. Item C, 2021-539, approval of the proposal for professional engineering services with Croy Engineering Services for the final design and construction documents for the preferred concept plan for the downtown improvement project, approved at the October 18th, 2021 City Council meeting, in an amount not to exceed $518,206, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city approved implementation of the downtown improvements for the Village Green area and surrounding streets as shown on a preferred concept plan developed by Pond and Company and upgraded through citizen input as is shown on the recommended concept plan dated October 15th, 2021. This proposal from Croy Engineering covers professional engineering services for the final design and construction documents for the civil and park design portions of this project. The project services will include completing the construction documents for the civil portion of the design, providing bidding services for the civil construction, preparation of RFQ documents to retain the contractor services, and participation in the contractor selection process. Staff recommends the approval of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Any questions or comments from council members? Any discussion? Okay, this is in, Ms. Wilkinson.
Thank you. So there's been a lot of discussion about this project for the downtown in Smyrna and this change of the traffic circle and fountain area. And I just want to say that for me, I know that this is a shared line item with the South Cobb Drive corridor, and it wasn't brought to my attention that this was going to be split 50-50 with South Cobb Drive. I think the total that was approved by the taxpayers was $12.27 million, and this fee with the fees that have already been incurred for the city for the design from the first time that we saw it on June 3rd up to the time when this was voted on. There's fees there, as well as this $518,206. And then when that's added with the estimate that was approved for the design on October 18th, I believe that puts it over 6.5, which is, it could end up being half. So for me, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I have concerns about the amount that will be left when we start looking at South Cobb Drive. And I think there's also a lot of things that are still in question in the downtown that are all part of this plan in terms of the property there on Atlanta Road next to the community center, also with the space that's going to be next to it that we've been told is park space, and how the funds would be used, where would they come from to complete that park space as well as this. And I just feel at this time that I'm concerned about those dollars. I think there's more information, more questions that haven't been answered yet. So for that reason, I'm not going to support this.
Okay. We have any more discussion? Mr. Welch?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And many of you know I haven't supported this project, but I'm going to second the motion. Just because I have not supported the project, I lost that vote. And with that being said, if we're going to do the project, I want to at least put the best team on it that I can, and I feel like these are the best team members that we can. And it's a fair contract, and I do support the contract at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lindley, seconded by Mr. Welch. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 6-1 with Councilmember Wilkinson voting in the negative. Item D, Resolution 2021-11, approval of Resolution 2021-11 for the mayor and council support for submission of the State Route 280 South Cobb Drive from Windy Hill Road to Concord Road Improvements Project to the Atlanta Regional Commission's Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP program, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. Mr. Bennett, the background, please.
Yes, sir, thank you. The Atlanta Regional Commission, also known as the ARC, is currently holding a solicitation for Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, project funding proposals. Funding assistance is available from the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, which includes the set aside for transportation alternatives, ARC's Livable Centers Initiative program, and the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program for the purpose of accelerating the delivery of projects in the approved TIP, which support the goals and objectives of the Atlanta Regional Transportation Plan. The City of Smyrna desires to submit a new federal funding request through the 2021 ARC TIP solicitation process for the State Route 280 South Cobb Drive from Windy Hill Road to Concord Road improvements. The unique identification number for this application is SMY-2-201. The project is being submitted under the bicycle and pedestrian category. The City of Smyrna, in partnership with Georgia Department of Transportation, the Atlanta Regional Commission, and Cobb County, completed the South Cobb Drive corridor study in 2017 for the segment of State Route 280 South Cobb Drive between Windy Hill Road and Concord Road. The 1.5-mile corridor improvements project builds on the Design Concept 4 recommendation identified in the study and includes the construction of a multi-way boulevard along the corridor with a raised landscaped median and a traffic signal at Bank Street and South Cobb Drive. Additionally, universal recommendations identified for the corridor include the following: multi-use paths on both sides of the corridor, sidewalks and sharrows on side streets, access management strategies, intersection improvements at Powder Spring Street and South Cobb Drive, landscaping, streetscaping, and beautification improvements, and a pocket park at Church Street and South Cobb Drive. A review of accident history along the corridor between October 2011 and October 2016 indicated that 15 accidents involving pedestrians and bicyclists were reported. One fatality occurred in 2015. Since November 2016, 3 additional crashes involving pedestrians have occurred along this corridor. Project costs are identified as project engineering, $3.3 million, construction, $25.5 million, and right-of-way acquisition at $950,000.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I'll tell you, I know there's been a lot of focus on the downtown recently, but I'll be honest with you, this project is one of my been one of the top priorities for South Cobb Drive improvements. One of the things that I'm most excited about, along with some of the things that we're doing over in Ward 7 with Oakdale Road and some of those facilities there. So I'm excited that we're getting this project underway, that we're starting the process with GDOT. Thank you to the Croy team and others for getting that done quicker and in the process quicker than we would have otherwise. Look for updates for this project in the spring as it moves along, and we'll begin having public meetings about the design details and all of that. But it's going to be a really exciting project that's going to transform that area, and it's been a long time coming. Any comments from council members, any discussion on this agenda item?
I would like to discuss
Ms.
it.
Wilkinson.
Because I've been on the council for a little while now, and I was involved in the study when it was done for the South Cobb Drive corridor back in 2016 and 2017. I am very excited to see us making some progress toward doing the renovations there, the improvements to South Cobb Drive. I think they're very much needed in that corridor. And there's probably more of South Cobb Drive that needs attention as well, but this is from Concord Road to Windy Hill, and most of that area runs through Ward 5. And so I'm very excited for this to be beginning. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Okay, turn it over to Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I echo many of your comments. I think this is yet another strong demonstration that we're committed to fulfilling. And to Ms. Wilkinson's point, my hope is that over time we expand that to all 4 wards that touch South Cobb Drive as one of our important thoroughfares. Growing up here, I know there was a day when it was the new flashy stretch and now needs some love. So I think this is a huge first step. With that, motion do pass as previously read.
Second.
Have a motion seconded by Ms. Wilkinson. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 7-0. Thank you. Item E, Resolution 2021-10, approval of Resolution 2021-10 for the support for submission of the East-West Connector Corridor improvements by the Cobb County Department of Transportation to the Atlanta Regional Commission's Transportation Improvement Program and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. Mr. Bennett, any background, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Safety and operational improvements have long been discussed and anticipated for the East-West Connector, which serves as a major arterial route to and through Cobb County and the city of Smyrna. And the widening of the East-West Connector is a Cobb County DOT project identified in the Atlanta Regional Commission Regional Transportation Program for 2020. The city of Smyrna has previously committed 2022 SPLOST Transportation Improvements Program funding in an amount not to exceed $920,000 for safety improvements along the East-West Connector. And the Atlanta Regional Commission conducts a biannual solicitation for project funding proposals in its Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, which allocates federal funds for use in the construction of the highest priority projects in the Regional Transportation Plan. Applications for the 2021 solicitation are due by December 2nd, 2021, and will be competitively selected for award based on predetermined evaluation criteria. And the Cobb County Department of Transportation desires to submit a TIP project study funding proposal for the East-West Connector to develop a locally preferred alternative and preliminary concept. The City of Smyrna City Council supports the Cobb County Department of Transportation's submission of the East-West Connector Corridor safety and operational improvements to the Atlanta Regional Commission's Transportation Improvement Program. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2021-10.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Any discussion amongst council?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Over to Dr. Wheaton.
This is a very important area for sure. We just referenced Windy Hill, South Cobb Drive area. East-West Connector runs kind of the northern component of Ward 7, northern boundary of Ward 7. It's an area that's really seen a lot of growth and development, not only because of the growth in Smyrna, but also the growth in our neighboring communities there. And so it's a great opportunity because we have some significant needs for operational improvements, safety improvements along that corridor. And there's certainly things that we can do, but this is a really big step in that direction. So when time's appropriate, I'm very excited to make a motion that this do pass as previously read.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, we have a motion. It's time.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of item 6E, Resolution 2021-10.
Seconded by Mr. Gould. All those in favor, please vote. That's approved 7-0. Thank you. Item F, 2021-535, approval of the calendar year 2022 mayor and council meeting dates as shown in attachment and reviewed at the November 11, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting. This is just the dates for all of our meetings next year. Mr. Gould, you want to handle this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 6F, 2021-535, calendar for 2020 mayor and council meetings.
I have a motion seconded by Mr. Pickens. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 7-0. Item G, 2021-542, approval to purchase one 2022 Ford Escape from Wade Ford, 3860 South Cobb Drive, Smyrna, Georgia 30080, under City of Atlanta Contract 10660WS in the amount of $23,688, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. And if I'm right, Mr. Bennett, this is for our economic development, and this is budgeted, but one became available, right?
Yes,
and it's less than we had budgeted, so
correct.
Putting it on the agenda so that we can go ahead and get it.
Yes, sir. And as if anyone knows that has been new vehicle shopping, there is certainly a shortage of new vehicles. And we have located a 2021 Ford Escape front-wheel drive on the lot of Wade Ford for the amount of $24,099, which is $411 above the contract price. They quoted us a 3 to 6 month delivery on a new vehicle, and my recommendation is to spend the extra $411 to take delivery of this vehicle. And it's our recommendation.
Okay. Any discussion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is this a budgeted item, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, sir, it is. It was included in the fiscal year 22 vehicle replacement fund.
Okay. Mr. Lindley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A motion do pass as previously presented.
Have a motion seconded by Mr. Gould. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 7-0. Item 7 is commercial building permits. We have none. Item 8 is the consent agenda. Mr. Bennett, can you please read the consent agenda for council approval?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item A, MIN 2021-73, approval of the October 28, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Item B, MIN 2021-81, approval of the November 1st, 2021 pre-council meeting minutes. Item C, MIN 2021-82, approval of the November 1st, 2021 mayor and council meeting minutes. And item D, approval for the use of City Hall on Sunday, December 12th, 2021 for a town hall meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Mr. Lindley, seconded by Mr. Pickens. All those in favor, please vote. It's approved 7-0. Right? I don't think anybody voted. Hold on just a second. I mean, Miss Heather, just let us know when you're ready. Okay. Now everybody can vote. Now it's approved 7-0. Okay. Item 9 is ward and committee reports. Tonight we'll start with Mr. Glenn Pickens.
Thank you, Mayor. No report this evening.
Mr. Wagner.
No report this evening, thanks.
Mr. Lindley.
No report.
Mr. Welch. Miss Wilkinson. I bet you got something.
Oh, I can think of something. Thank you. I do want to thank the staff and also the Veterans Committee that held the Veterans Day ceremony last Thursday. It was a great event. There were lots of people there, and it was well attended, and there was a really good speaker that I think really touched a lot of people's hearts. And I just want to thank everybody that helped put that together. And thank Mr. Gould for his speaking, too. He did a nice job. Or I should say Councilman Gould.
Thank you, Councilwoman
thank you.
Wilkinson. I followed the advice of Council Member Lindley, said, don't mess it up. Yeah, I just want to build on what Ms. Wilkinson just said. The Veterans Committee did a really wonderful job in Post 160 and all their folks getting that organized, but then the City Parks Department too, to get it set up. And it's really a wonderful event. So if you have a chance next Veterans Day to come on out and and really celebrate our veterans, show them the support that they deserve, and be part of the process. We welcome you to do that. But it was really a great day. So thank you.
Dr. Wheaton.
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Joe?
No, sir, I've spoken enough.
I agree. Scott? Ms. Heather? Ms. Penny? Okay. Item 10 is show cause hearings. We have none. Item 11 is citizen input. We have a few signed up for citizen input this evening. Ms. Laura Morellis, 2232 Old Spring Road. Good evening.
Good evening. I just want to speak briefly in opposition to the brewery. Not so much because it's a bad idea now, but it's interesting that Councilmember Lindley mentioned how bright and shiny South Cobb Drive used to be in its time and how now it's not so much. So I'm looking down the road 15, 20 years at what the brewery is going to be. Is it still going to be something that is desirable, or is it going to end up being blight? My concern is, since it's going to be a building with such a specific purpose, that if the business owners go into default or for some reason the business fails, then and the bank forecloses on the building, then we're stuck with this monstrosity right in the middle of our city. I Googled breweries in the area, and there are like 10 within like 10 miles in the northwest metro area of Atlanta. They're so trendy right now. Everybody's having functions at breweries. Our teacher's party is at the Red Hare Brewery for our middle school. And my concern is it's so trendy. I would love to see something different. And one of the things that I was thinking of, if you ever take your kids to Fernbank, I pay that crazy high admission, and we spend the whole time on that walkway thing. And it's outdoors. It's a big, it's a bunch of bridges, platforms, go under, climb the ropes, do all of this. I think something like that would be a draw. I don't think the brewery would be a draw. And I think, as someone who loves Smyrna, I'd like to see something that people get in the car from Decatur and say, let's go up to that thing they've got in Smyrna. And I just don't see that with the brewery. I mean, I'd like to see something that's, an attraction here so that people will come here, give, support our businesses, support our community. And I just think the brewery is going to end up in 10 years, 15 years. I think it's going to be kind of a monstrosity, and I think it's going to end up being a big regret. I have to say, though, Mayor and Council, everything else that you've been doing has been very impressive, particularly the openness to diversity and inclusion. I'm really happy that you've taken steps in that direction. It's certainly a better atmosphere in the city, I think, for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thanks for saying that. I know you and I always haven't seen eye to eye, to say the least, but I will say that I feel like we're in a good spot, and I really appreciate your input and your just being involved with everything and always available for a call. Thank you.
Well, I care about the city just like, Susan knows because she's my ward council representative. And even before the whole mayoral race, I've always been just like, what can I do to make our community? And I think that's what makes a community, because I'm super old, and that's what people used to do is, really you know what I'm saying? Just really work together for the community. So thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, next we have Donna, and the handwriting's not great. Elkayam, 560
Elkayam.
Thank you. 560 Wooddale Drive, Smyrna.
Hi.
Welcome.
It's good to be here, and it's good to be in a city as beautiful as Smyrna. I've just always been very impressed by so many things that they have done for the citizens here, especially the beautiful community center and the gorgeous library and the children's library. And so therefore I was pretty shocked hearing that they were planning or considering putting in a brewery across from the children's library and this family community center. It just seems like a very inappropriate place to put essentially a bar. I'm not sure if those are the values we want to be teaching our children. We're also coming off of a pandemic, and I feel like the city should be focusing on health initiatives. I was hoping to see some nutrition classes or how to boost your immune system classes, maybe expanding the fabulous Smyrna Community Garden and offering more low-cost organic garden plots. I've helped promote the community garden movement, and I'm also a homeless advocate. 2 people froze to death, a couple on the South Cobb, on the road practically, next to the road at the bus stop last winter that I was trying to help, that were evicted by the city of Smyrna because they were sleeping under the overhang of the it's like it's a condemned movie theater, I think it is. But anyway, my concern is a lot about all these homeless people who have been made homeless by the pandemic, and their needs are not met, and they don't have food, they don't have tents, they don't have sleeping bags. And I just wish that the city would look at what's going on. A lot of people have been fighting for their lives during the pandemic, and I just think that, you know, drinking booze is not really what we should be focusing on. I don't want to demonize drinking. Lots of people just drink socially, and they drink responsibly. They don't get DUIs and become alcoholics, of course, but there are some cases where it doesn't go well, and I just wouldn't want to see more DUIs and more health problems. So is it the bell, the 3-minute bell?
Excuse me?
Was the bell the 3-minute bell?
You get 20 more seconds. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I just want to see money go toward helping the people because it's our money, and we should be also allowed to vote about where that money goes when it's millions and millions of dollars.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your heart for the community.
All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Marie Rhodes, 3950 Harmony Walkway.
Good evening. Respectfully, Mr. Mayor, council members. I am looking at the brewery and I'm making an appeal. What I'm looking for is perhaps a compromise. Since July, the citizens of Smyrna have gained increasing awareness of the plan to add the brewery and tap room to the city center on the village green. Aside from the concern that a 3-story, 28,000 square foot brewery might be an eyesore to that location, a concern about the special hazards posed by the risk need to be considered. You and the council, Mr. Mayor, I sent you recently emails with concern about the grain storage silos and the milling operations, which become explosive during the handling of grain dust and should now be reviewed for that information. Even a small craft brewery, which was this category, is what this falls into. They advertise it that way. They belong to the Independent Craft Brewers Association. They are a craft brewery. They are not a microbrewery. Even the small craft brewery has this hazard, is constructed to attempt to contain such exposures and are most often located in industrial parks like Tucker Brewery, Bold Monk, in small office parks like Six Bridges, or in a single building in a large clear space like Reformation. All the precaution and containment measures that can be taken do not always prevent an accident. Consider restaurants having fires in spite of all the controls they have. Or consider Sterigenics, the ethylene oxide emissions in 2018, which is not so easily rectified and is still under a watchful eye. Would that have been permitted if you had known in advance? The citizens in opposition to this proposal seem to agree that having this brewery in the city somewhere would be terrific. I like beer, just not at that city location. A win-win situation could be where someone, the brewers, create a tap room only. Somebody had suggested a beer garden as a term, something that's more community, more smaller, a little, more carefully planned, along with the gardens, the other amenities proposed on that site, and blending with the surroundings. And to construct the beer production operations somewhere else in Smyrna, on a more appropriate piece of land, perhaps a larger property, where this great operation could even grow. And I see the ambition in these people. They have distribution to 88 locations around the city, around the country, around the state, rather. You look at the Still in Marietta. The brewery itself is on Delk Industrial, but Smyrna is not so huge that it would be an insurmountable distance for the brewers to travel between two operations. The hazards and risk reduction, not elimination, you can't eliminate it, in craft breweries is well outlined by experts in the field in that article that I've put on your desks. When do you lock the barn door? After it happens or before it happens? We need to look at where there's dust, there can be fire.
Ms. Rhodes, you're over your time, so just a few more seconds, please.
One word, severity potential. 2 words, severity. The potential of that explosive risk could take out the community center.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Next up, we have Sean Martin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sean Martin, and I would like to offer an update of the letter that each one of you should have received via email by now. I'm just going to read the letter just so that everyone understands and knows where we stand. Dear Mayor Norton, on behalf of Smyrna, we dutifully resubmit these signatures in protest to the sale of the property located east of the community center along Atlanta Road. We feel this property belongs to the citizens of Smyrna and should remain in the city of Smyrna's keeping. In addition, the following two major points were noted as primary objections. Number one, the proposed sale of prime public green space to a brewery without open bidding or property valuation. Number two, the removal of the fountain, trees, vegetation, and roundabout in front of the Smyrna Community Center. We have canvassed in many ways, discussed the issues with citizens, and have amassed a total of 928 signatures, 660 online signatures, and 268 handwritten signatures as of November 14th. We are still collecting signatures. The breakdown of the signature pools are as follows: Smyrna Mapleton area, 379 online, 268 handwritten, a total of 647 signatures, all within confirmed zip codes that fall within the Smyrna city limits. We hope that you will take heed to this overwhelming response to the proposed sale of the property. We would like to recommend other uses for this property that have also been suggested by many citizens. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to contact Joan at joanansley@aol.com or smartsmyrna@smartsmyrna30080@gmail.com. And I've just brought some hard copies for the city clerk. And that's it. Thank you.
It strikes me that the petition had two things: against the sale of the property and then against the roundabout and trees, which have been taken out, which has been approved months ago. So I'm not sure what exactly the petition is about. Is it about the sale of the brewery, or is it about the removal of the roundabout and trees? And is there a breakdown of that? So we can get into that a little bit more down the road. Deborah Tompkins, 789 Church Street. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for hearing me. I just came up to speak also in opposition to the sale of property there on Atlanta Road. That is the city's most prime real estate. I, for one, have never, even if we had the best thing on earth there, why it's been necessary to actually make a sale to anyone, really, just because of that reason. Things change, interests change. We can't control what may come up in the future, and we will not have any control to be flexible or pivot to new interest or whatever may happen to a brewery if it is approved and goes there. I didn't get a chance to attend the pre-council presentation of it a couple of weeks ago, so I didn't get a chance to see that. I did look at a design earlier of it that apparently was presented that someone had posted, and I was really amazed at the size of this. I thought it was going to be much smaller, but this is quite a significant structure, and then the 6 silos that front Atlanta Road. And my first thought was, my goodness, that could be wonderful open green space for public art location. I know in what has already been approved for in front of the community center, you've got designations for public art and venues there for, in fact, adding new shade trees, to replace, I guess, some that had to be removed, and with the roundabout being removed. But I would comment, green spaces, they're great for connections to nature and wildlife, for physical activity, for air quality. I know the city has said that it wants a more pedestrian-friendly and family-friendly area in the downtown, and so that's why we've even voted as a city, the council here, to in fact remove the roundabout and extend green space on down to in front of the community center. And we've made a lot of amenities such as the interactive water feature and play areas, and again, the public art and all those that I think will enhance and be wonderful for concerts, for events. Oops, I'm running out of time, whatever. But unfortunately, then we've decided we're going to install a brewery and a distillery right next to this that I think contradicts everything that we're stating we want in the downtown area. There was never really an independent environmental study done. So I know there's been back and forth about impact of that, but we haven't had an independent study. I think that would have been needed. And I guess just to finish up, I just think it contradicts, this is going to produce a lot of extra traffic too, so I think it contradicts to pedestrian friendly, certainly connection to wildlife, and so I just find it a contradiction.
Thank you for your comments. A couple of things. First, there will be another work session where we discuss this issue. There'll also be a public meeting. We're not anywhere near close to the end of this. You mentioned a land sale, and we've been back and forth on that in discussions. Likely would be a sale versus a lease, but you could put controls on that with deed restrictions on the land. You could do a ability to buy it back if there ever was a problem with some guardrails on it, on the price. So we're looking at different things like that. Everybody keeps talking about these 6 silos, and I know that there was an initial sketch way back in June or whenever we started, April when we started doing this. The brewery guys have said it would be at max 3 of those, and they'd work with the Smyrna Arts and Culture Council on what those would look like. So, you know, this idea that this is some industrial factory with smokestacks, and it's just not, that's just not correct. It's a $7 million proposed state-of-the-art facility for entertainment. It's going to be an economic driver if it is passed. So I just, you know, and there is environmental studies actually going on right now to make sure that to make sure that we're doing everything we need to be doing. Also, just one point just to make. In my office, there's a picture of what that looked like as the initial plan, right? And there were always buildings planned there. It was either the police station originally or some kind of retail or something was going to go there anyway. It's just sat there the way it is. It's basically a drainage area right now. But we'll get in. I want you to know that we're going to get into more of these details in public meetings going forward. And there's a lot of misinformation out there right now. We're going to have the brewery guys, we're going to have the economic development folks and others making presentations to the public for comment, okay? So thank you very much. Marie Smith, 1215 Bank Street.
Hello, I'm Marie Smith from 1215 Bank Street, and I am also opposed to the brewery. I just wanted to make a couple of statements. I did get to attend the November 1st pre-council meeting with the still fire presentation. And there were a couple of things left out of the minutes of that meeting that I had reviewed that I thought would be worthwhile of making a statement out here. I was disappointed when Still Fire stated this is the only site that they would consider in Smyrna, that they would not come to Smyrna if it was not this location. And that just sounded like strong-arming tactics to me, and I don't think that's the kind of company Smyrna should want to do business with. And I'm glad to hear you say that there will be further community input, because at that meeting, Councilman Wilkinson did ask about public input. And the takeaway I got was the comment, the council has the authority to move forward on this deal without further public input. So I am happy to hear that that will occur. And Still Fire in that presentation did state that it would be a 28,000 square foot location versus their 8,000 square foot proofs of concept that they have out of Swanee. So all those issues do need to be made, and that was coming from Still Fire's representative. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last person we had signed up for citizen input. I will just remind everybody that this, you know, when you talk about They don't want to go to another location. It seems like strong arming. I mean, they came to us. They found our economic development director. They came and did a presentation to the council in executive session, which is where we typically do things like this when land is in question. And this council, everybody sitting up here, listened to their presentation and said, you know what, we think we should probably look at this a little bit further. And so we signed a letter of intent. And they want to do that here. It's a $7 million investment. If you're going to make $7 million, you're going to be investment. You're going to be very specific about where you want to be. They want to be in our downtown. And the other thing on here is there's a park as well, right? There's a park that's attached to it on the 0.75 acres up on the south side. So it's not just that it's been put out there as an industrial factory, that it's been rushed. I mean, we first got this in April, that we're not considering other alternatives, I've heard. You know, this has been out there 6-8 months, and we've had a couple of passive, soft inquiries about other possible uses, but no proposals. I mean, this is the proposal that's on the table right now. And so this council ultimately, in the next several weeks, will make the decision whether the policy decision, is this something that is going to be good for downtown or not? Is it going to drive people down here and make our downtown vibrant, or is it not? Is it going to block the view? Like I said, there's already buildings have been planned there for a long time. I hear a lot that it's all going to be AstroTurf, and what we passed is going to be AstroTurf, no grass. And then nothing could be farther from the truth. There's a little bit of a strip next to the stage that we passed that is going to be turf, possibly if we can work it in the budget, because that's where all the vehicles will go when we put the stage up and back. So, yeah. And I've already addressed the 6 industrial silos when it's supposed to be 3 right now, working with the Arts and Culture Council. And the other thing I've heard is that we're giving tax abatements to these guys. No tax abatements, guys. We're not giving anything to them. Then we may waive some of the permit fees if this passes, but we're not doing any tax abatements at all. So be careful when you're looking at this stuff and hearing folks online and on Nextdoor and Facebook and public comments to decipher fact from fiction and reality from rumor. And I'll just leave it with that. If there's no other comments, we are adjourned at 8:15. Thank you. Yep.